In 2019, researchers at the University of Pennsylvania studied the spending habits of 2,000 households across 5 income brackets. They found something that contradicted everything most people believe about wealth. The households in the top income bracket did not spend more on status signals, cars, clothes, watches, restaurants, than households earning half as much. In many categories, they spent less. What they did spend on was completely invisible to everyone around them: time, delegation, optionality, the ability to say no. I'm Stella, and today I'm going to show you the single most expensive habit that keeps ordinary people ordinary, and why the wealthiest people you will never notice are the ones who eliminated it first. Here's the poorest thing you probably do every single day. You trade your time for small amounts of money, not in the way your job requires. That trade has a clear return. In the other ways. The 2 hours spent comparison shopping to save $30. The 45 minutes on hold with your insurance company over a 15 billing error. The Sunday afternoon spent doing a task that a $25 service could handle in 20 minutes. The objection most people have here is, I can't bill those 2 hours to anyone. They're not worth $50, and that's fair. But that's not really the point. The point is attention, where your mental energy goes, what problems you train yourself to optimize for. People who spend 2 hours to save $30 are training themselves to think small. People who spend that same 2 hours on something that compounds, a skill, a relationship, a decision that matters, are training themselves differently. Over a decade, that difference shows up on a balance sheet. Wealthy people do not make this trade, not because their time is worth more in some abstract sense, but because they made a specific decision at some point to stop making it. They decided their attention had a value, and they started behaving accordingly. This is not about being rich enough to afford convenience. It is about deciding that your attention has a value before you are rich, and letting that decision change your behavior. The causality runs in both directions. People who treat their time as valuable tend to become more valuable. People who treat their time as free tend to keep giving it away. The second thing wealthy people never do follows directly from the first. They stop performing wealth for an audience that isn't watching. There is a term in behavioral economics called conspicuous consumption, spending to signal status to others. And the data on who actually does this is counterintuitive. According to a 2024 study by the National Bureau of Economic Research, visible status spending, luxury cars, branded clothing, expensive restaurants, is significantly higher as a percentage of income among households earning $75,000 to $150,000 than among households earning $500,000 and above. The people most aggressively performing wealth are the people who have the least of it. The people who have actually built it have largely stopped caring whether anyone can see it. The financial cost of conspicuous consumption isn't one car or one watch. It's the compound growth that the money spent on signaling never had the chance to produce. $800 per month spent on a car payment that exceeds what transportation requires, invested instead at 8% for 20 years, is $572,000. The car depreciates to near zero. The portfolio does the opposite. Nobody at your destination sees the difference between the $400 monthly payment and the $800 monthly payment, but your balance sheet does, every single month for 20 years. Think about the last significant purchase you made. Honestly, how much of that decision was about what you wanted, and how much was about how it would look? No judgment. Drop it in the comments. The answer is more revealing than any budget spreadsheet. The third thing connects the first two and is probably the most underestimated of all. Wealthy people never confuse "I can't afford it" with "I've chosen not to prioritize it." This sounds like a small semantic difference. It is not. It is the difference between a scarcity mindset and a resource allocation mindset. When you say "I can't afford it," you hand control of your financial life to external circumstances. When you say "I've chosen not to prioritize that right now," you acknowledge that you are making a decision, and that decisions can change. Morgan Housel, in The Psychology of Money, describes meeting a janitor named Ronald Read who died in 2014 leaving an $8 million estate. He drove a used car, he wore flannel shirts, he never said he couldn't afford things. He said consistently that he had chosen where to put his money and stuck to it for 70 years. Ronald Read did not become wealthy because he earned a high income. He became wealthy because he made a specific choice about what to prioritize, and he never confused that choice with inability. The people who build wealth quietly are almost always people who stopped using the language of scarcity and started using the language of choice, not to pretend they have unlimited resources, but because the framing changes the decisions that follow. Here's the summary. The poorest thing rich people never do, and most people do constantly, is trade attention for small returns while spending larger amounts on signals nobody is watching. They don't comparison shop for 2 hours to save $30. They don't buy the car that performs success for an audience that won't remember seeing it. And they don't say, I can't afford it, when what they mean is, I've chosen to spend on other things. 3 habits, each one individually small. Compounded over a decade, they are the difference between the person who wonders where the money went and the person who quietly stopped wondering. Here's what to do this week. Pick 1 hour you spent last week trading attention for a small financial return. Calculate what that hour was actually worth, not in dollars billed, but in what you gave up by focusing there instead of somewhere that compounds. Then ask honestly whether the trade made sense. Then look at your 3 largest discretionary expenses. Ask which ones you chose because you wanted them and which ones you chose because someone might see them. Those 2 questions will tell you more about your financial trajectory than any budget spreadsheet. If this changed how you think about where your money and your attention actually go, subscribe to Stella Insights. This is what we do here, the financial decisions that actually move the needle, explained without the noise. And if this made you think of someone specific, send it to them. Sometimes one idea at the right moment changes everything. See you in the next one.